It's hour two brought to you by ECAC Hockey, the leaders in hockey on and off the ice. Learn more at ecachockey.com. Happy to have on Izzy Daniel, an alumni of Cornell University women's team who had a highly successful career and now is a rookie in the PWHL. Izzy, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to get your thoughts on, because you played at Cornell during the COVID years, and that was a tremendous stressful time for everybody in the world. I can't even imagine what it was like for a student athlete having to manage that situation, practicing, playing, managing your schoolwork at an Ivy League school, which is daunting in itself. Talk about the experiences you gained going through those adverse situations that helped you take your step into the pro ranks.
Yeah, I think obviously COVID was a tough time, I think specifically for us in the Ivy League because we lost a season and everyone else got to play it. But first of all, like my freshman year was even impacted by it. We both our men's and women's teams were ranked number one going into the NCAA tournament my first year, and we were set to play our first game. It was supposed to be Saturday, and Thursday the NCAA came out and said, "We're done. The tournament's canceled." So that was really heartbreaking for all of us on that team. I think we all thought we were going to win it all that year, and I still believe all of us still talk about like we would have won it that year, and I think that was really hard. And then the next year, when we learned we didn't have a season, it sucked, but I thought a lot of us like handled it well. I went home, I got to train on my own, I got to get a lot stronger in the gym and work on my individual game. And I actually think that was really, really helpful for me. I took a huge step the next season. And I kind of owe it all to my strength coach and everyone back home who really helped me during that time. And I think that's when I really committed myself to hockey um, and committed myself to being the best player I could be. I think before, like, I was, but I wasn't quite sure what it meant to be a college hockey player. I wasn't like in tune in the gym as much before I got to college, even before my freshman season. So I think that was really good. But our program kind of got stung by COVID. Just we lost two classes in 2 years. So that year we didn't play, we also lost seniors. So when I came back for my sophomore year, we had two classes of freshmen. So all of a sudden, us freshmen were now upperclassmen in a matter of 1 year instead of two. So it was kind of like you got thrown into this role. You kind of had to step up. We had 15 rookies, so it was hard. And I think we saw that on the ice the first 2 years. We were trying to kind of rebuild our culture, rebuild our locker room. And I think finally last year we kind of got going in the right direction. So it was a long process, but in the end, I think it was really rewarding for myself and a lot of others. I think I really grew as like an individual and a leader. And it kind of was a blessing in disguise. So
How much of that opportunity to become a leader, being in some cases, you don't always get to choose that role. Sometimes it's forced upon you, or you have to accept it because you're the next person up. And that relationship you have with yourself, but then the relationship with that, those sophomores looking at each other. I'm like, okay, this is what we have to do, and we have to band together. How was that? What was that experience like with not only looking yourself in the mirror, but then, having those conversations with the group that you were originally freshmen with?
yeah, I mean, it was hard to be honest. Like it was, I think. Honestly, like a lot of us probably weren't ready for that. I mean, you're used to, your freshman, sophomore year, you're underclassmen and you're not necessarily looked to in those moments. So then when you have people who are, a year younger than you looking to you in that moment, you kind of have to be like, oh wow, they're looking at me like I have to be that one to step up. And I think for myself, like I'm a shy person, I'm quiet in terms of vocal, but I think I'm someone who leads by example. Like I want to show them the way and show them what it meant to be a Cornell hockey player and what it meant to be a part of our program because I think it's definitely a privilege to play at Cornell and play for our coaching staff and for our team. It's just such a rich tradition of hockey and honestly excellence there. So I think it was on us. Like we wanted to uphold the standard and make sure it didn't, crumble under our feet almost. It was like we don't want to be the ones to mess this up, kind of. But it was definitely hard.
Talk about the maintaining the culture of what it is to play at Cornell. And you had mentioned it about, not wanting to let that culture crumble. How much of that was in the back of your mind and also, the senior players on the team of this is what we were taught by the previous players on our team, and we have to, try to double down and ensure that it doesn't get lost on our watch. What was that like in terms of managing that expectation, but then also, you have to manage all your academic work on top of that in an Ivy League school where the expectations of your academics are also extremely high. It's a very high standard.
Yeah, I think looking back on it now, I think I would have done some things differently a little bit. Like when I was a freshman, I had this picture of, what our culture was, and we had these amazing leaders my freshman year who really showed us the way. But I think that culture and our identity as a team that year, that was our team, right? Every year it changes a little bit, and I think we kind of got caught up in trying to make it exactly how we knew it was our freshman year when you just can't with the different personalities and personnel we had. So I think we kind of got caught up a little bit like we have to be like we were when we were a freshman because that's all we knew, right? We didn't know anything else. And that's ultimately probably impossible when you have a different team. So I think we did definitely get caught up on that a little bit, but I think it's also hard because in our minds, like that's what we saw was Cornell hockey, and obviously we were so successful, so we wanted to try to replicate that as much as we could. But looking back on it, obviously, I think it's very difficult, nearly impossible to do that. So, and then on the academic side, I believe like it's honestly, um, it's obviously very difficult to manage your studies and athletics, but I think I would say usually you struggle freshman year with time management and such, but after that, like I was someone I really loved school. I switched my major my sophomore year into industrial labor relations, which is something I was really passionate about. It's like collective bargaining, labor relations, and then specifically I took a bunch of classes in sports because that's what I really love. And so, like, I loved going to class. And I think one thing I had to say to people going to school now is you need to find something you're passionate about in academics. Otherwise, you're just not going to succeed because you're not going to want to go to class. You're not going to want to do your work. And I definitely saw that in myself my freshman year and with teammates too. Like, they were just uninterested. And I think when you choose to go to a school like Cornell, like, it's not just hockey. You need to know that you're going there for a great education too. And if that's not a priority, like I don't think it's the right fit for you. So, but it was definitely, I think the blend was a challenge, but also something that was really good for me.
Just talk a little bit before we have to head off about, you've played three games so far as a rookie with Toronto. Talk about that experience of that jump from college hockey now into the pro ranks. And every pro player I've ever talked to, they always say that first couple of weeks is that big splash of cold water in your face of realizing where you are.
Yeah. It's been great, honestly. Got here like probably a month ago now, so got my feet wet a little bit, but it's definitely, I'd say the biggest difference is it's more physical. And the girls even say it's more physical than last season. I think people saw last year like these huge hits in the PWHL and stuff, and it's even more physical than that. Like in college, you could get into the corner and you wouldn't necessarily get pinned and you could get out of it. You could start climbing the wall. Here, there's no chance you're doing that. If you get into the corner, you're done. Like you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get pinned. Same with like decision making, obviously it's just a lot faster. Like the puck's on and off your stick, either that or you're turning it over. So I would say like that's the biggest difference. The speed, I would say is it's obviously a lot faster, but I would say some college games, I played in were similar against like the top teams and stuff, but I'd say the physicality is definitely the biggest difference.
It's that doesn't change from any person I speak to, regardless of what league they play in. They jump to that next one, and it's like the speed and the pace and the physicality. So I don't think that, and I love watching the PWHL. So and I like the little extra physical edge you guys have this year. Izzy, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Good luck through the season.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a short break on Hockey Prospect Radio. We'll be back right after these messages.